Well, it's Sunday the 17th of November, and this is episode 2429 of 301 Permanently Moved Online, a personal podcast 301 seconds in length, written, recorded, and edited by me at the JMO. I have come to the realization I am not a writer. I have friends who are creative craftsmen with a natural affinity for narrative or the shape of an argument. They know how to let words flow one after another, forming a coherent whole. My writing, on the other hand, happens in the edit. I don't write words, I process them, battering at them like a lump of clay. Cut, copy, paste, highlight, delete, overwrite, move, drag, and drop. Words are a medium to be processed. I've come to this conclusion after reading Track Changes, A Literary History of Word Processing by Matthew G. Kirchenbaum. It's an amazing book about the creation of and adoption of word processing, a technology that has profoundly reshaped not just how we write, but the structure of our own thoughts. As we face a new revolution in literary technologies with LLMs, learning more about this earlier revolution felt pressing to me. I was born in 1985, and I first encountered word processing software at school when I was about 9 or 10. For me and anyone younger, it's hard to grasp how revolutionary the adoption of word processing was. We take it for granted that words are fluid behind polished glass, but those who lived through it, followed immediately by the advent of the internet, the impact was monumental. Until reading Track Changes, I hadn't realized the sheer hostility word processors faced, especially from the creative class. There was outright vitriol. Processing was for vegetables, not words, went one refrain. Some writers even hid their use of word processors to avoid suspicions of automation and inauthenticity. In 1984, Alan Hollinghurst, then deputy editor of the Times Literary Supplement, worried that style deteriorates. People write more laxly. Others dismiss word processors as inefficient or even harmful tools. A 1982 Writer's Digest feature on writing novels with computers triggered an avalanche of angry letters. Typing made easy with personal computers, not writing, one person fumed. Meanwhile, sci-fi writers like John Varley joked about using only natural ingredients like typewriters and creativity, while the evangelists declared word processors as revolutionary as the printing press. Looking back, those hype beasts were sort of onto something. One concern at the time was that people might mistake draft quality work as finished, given the polished look of typeset text. Iris Murdoch lamented that staring at a glowing screen separated writers from their thoughts, giving them a premature air of completeness. The history of word processing is tightly entwined with management consulting and workplace misogyny. IBM's marketing team coined the term word processor to describe the function of its new machines, but the concept quickly became tied to a reductive view of secretarial labor. Mad Men-style management consultants push hard to dehumanize the secretarial role, arguing that typing should be a mechanical input-output activity done by a type of worker, rather than an individual secretary who, shock horror, might have opinions and advice. The original word processors were the women behind the typewriters. It's disturbing to read how consultants actively work to strip secretaries of their agency and autonomy in the workplace, seeing their work as something to be measured by word count, accuracy, and typing speed, moving them out of the boss's office and into soul-destroying typing pools. Some fears about word processors, though, have come true. In 1984, the author Ray Hammond found it necessary to remind his readers that the computer has no power to write words. And many authors feared that readers would not understand the technology and instead would think the computer had written the book for them. The invention of the word processor also shifted the labor of writing and publishing. Authors in the 1950s hammered out their manuscripts on typewriters in one go and sent it off, leaving the task of correcting grammar and spelling to copy editors. Word processors mostly pushed these tasks back onto the authors themselves. By the late 1990s, most objections to word processors had subsided. Personal computers became the default tool. But it's worth noting that word processors were never designed for creative writers. They were business tools first and foremost. We still call them documents. It wasn't until a later generation of software, like Scrivener, that word processing became more attuned to the needs of writers. And we still lack true hypertext-first writing software. I suspect we'll see a similar evolution with LLMs. Right now, things are being built for businesses, but we'll see new creative interfaces, new tools, and eventually new norms about how we think about the production of creative work. And before anyone objects, it's worth noting that there was also a backlash in the 1990s against tools like spell check and grammar suggestions, tools that are now essential. Lastly, on a somewhat related note, I recently showed a retired boomer Stable Diffusion. It was their first time seeing image generation in action, and they shrugged and said that they assumed that's what people using Photoshop had been doing for the last 20 years. So maybe those fears of the past weren't so unfounded after all, or maybe like before, will adapt and evolve and thrive. in this new era of creative tools.